Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Eleni Mirciotti, and I'm coordinating the online training program by Scientix. This 1 hour is designed to help teachers and educators create the first inquiry-based science education class using smartphones. Together with us, we have today Christophe Azot, who is the coordinator for Trapeze Digital. This webinar is part of the 2021 STEM Discovery Campaign and is organized by Physique, Lamana Lapat, and Trapeze Digital. In this webinar, participants are expected to learn what smartphone sensors are, how they're useful in IBSC, how to collect and analyze data, how they can use the free application Physique to conduct IBSC classes, do's and don'ts do when using smartphones in class for IBSC, and how to find relevant resources. And without any further ado, Christophe, we pass the floor to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this webinar on smartphones and IBSE. So my name is Christophe Azot, and I'm the president of Trapeze.digital, and I'm also a volunteer at Lamana Lapat, where I teach primary school teachers about robots and programming. And I'd like also to thank Eleni and Scientix for organizing this presentation. So I will switch to this presentation, which will last about 20-25 minutes, and then we'll have questions, and then we can try on a number of sounds to try the application Physique. Okay, so I'll switch to my presentation. I hope you can all see it now, and I'm just going to maximize it a bit. So you should see this presentation now. And so we're going to talk about smartphones for inquiry-based science education. And first of all, you all know what it is, but I'd like to redefine IBSE, and I used the definition of Ioannis Lefkos, who published a blog in Scientix. IBSE is described as learning in which students construct knowledge through predicting, observation, and hands-on experiments in the same way as doing real research. And so when conducting this research, when conducting these hands-on experiments, students use scientific instruments, and the first scientific instrument they use is obviously their body, their senses, their vision, their ear, their touch, in order to get some feelings and some indication and some measurements on the experiments which they are trying. But very often they need to complement that feeling which they get from their body with precise measurements. And so for that they need scientific instruments. And the question is, what is the best scientific instruments that they can find? What would be the ideal scientific instrument for IBSE? And I put here a number of ideas of what could be this instrument. The first one, and I think it's very important, is that it's widely available and affordable. And why is it important? Is because you don't want any, you want to avoid inequality. So you want to make it as widely available and affordable as possible. The second one is obviously that it needs to be accurate and, if possible, versatile. If you can use it to many use, that's even better. Then you want it to be transportable, easy to set up and maintain. You want it transportable because you want to bring it to the field, you want to bring it to the classroom, you want to bring it at home. Ideally, it's something that is very easy to set up. And maintaining is very important because you don't want to have a lot of maintenance because it's costly. Ideally, you want something that is engaging for pupils and students so that they have motivation in order to use it. And that is also facilitating collaborative work so that students can work together and they learn that science is about collaboration. And finally, you want something that is an open platform, i.e. you are not stuck within an ecosystem, and you can develop more things for that particular purpose. And so that's when smartphones come into play, because smartphones have really transformed our societies in the last 10 years. The first real smartphone was created in 2007 with the iPhone, and then our smartphone became more and more powerful, more and more affordable, more and more easy to handle, and in terms of their longevity in their use, they can last all day. Now the important things about smartphone is that they can transmit mobile data, and that mobile data is now available anywhere. So mobile data allows you to send data, to send all the information or to receive information everywhere you are. So you're connected with the rest of the world. And that's very important because the whole economy is now digitized. So now everything that, all the information that is around us has been digitized. So because you can receive mobile data about everywhere, you can receive all this information that is available everywhere in the world. And it's even more true that data storage has become extremely cheap, and that there are cloud storage solutions which enable you to store this data very easily in the cloud. Finally, a very important development in the last year has been the development of open source. With open source, about anyone can develop an app, make it available on the app stores so that everyone can use it. And finally, another important development is the social networks, because of data, because of open source, because of this mobile data, people are used to sharing information. They are used to believe in what the crowd is saying. They are used to exchanging all this information. And so we get an extremely powerful environment with the smartphone that is really has transformed society. And here I gave on the right some examples of companies which have transformed the way people used to do payments. You are using to do healthcare, farming in developing countries. And smartphone has really transformed or developed countries, but also developing countries equally. And the impact of smartphone is even more important in developing countries. Now, an important thing about smartphone as well is that, and that's particularly important for us in science, is that they incorporate a number of sensors, and very often much more sensors than we think and that we believe. Obviously, the camera, which gives you access to photo capabilities, but also to color, to luminance, to movement. If you want to analyze the cinematic of a movement, thanks to the video. You've got the GPS, which gives you latitude, longitude, speed, altitude, the accelerometer, which gives you information on acceleration, gravity, steps, the microphone, which gives you all the information about amplitude of sounds, frequency, volume, frequency spectrum, the gyroscope, which gives you information on rotation, orientation, the magnetometer on magnetic field, the lux meter on brightness. So you've got this whole area of sensors, and some phones even have more capabilities than that. Some phones have the capability to record the heartbeats, some have barometers and so forth. So a whole area of sensors which make the smartphone an extremely interesting and powerful tool for IBSE, because if you look at all the requirements which I put before on what would be the ideal instruments, you see that smartphone is checking most of the boxes. Largely available, affordable. Now you can have a smartphone for 50 to 100 euros. It's very accurate with large number of measurements. Smartphones are extremely powerful. They can contain a lot of data. They are very easily transportable. They are easy to maintain. They are upgradable. They are very engaging for students and pupils thanks to the touch screen. They facilitate collaborative work because of the capacity to communicate through internet, through Wi-Fi, through 3G, 4G, soon 5G, and they are an open platform, i.e., anyone can contribute on the app stores and create their own app and make it available to the wider community. And so to show you the use of using smartphone in the IBSE, I want to show you an example of how to use PHYSIC, for example, to analyze the sound of a tuning fork on the note A3, for example. So in PHYSIC, for example, you're able with one smartphone to play the sound, and here this is you can play the tuning forks here at the top. You have also the capability to record the sound with an oscillogram, so you get rid of the oscillogram which you traditionally have in a lab. You also get rid of the frequency synthesizer which you also have in the lab, because you're going to use the frequency synthesizer of your own smartphone. So you can record this information, analyze the sound wave extremely easily, record this sound wave and measure measure the period of this sound wave and create a PDF document with a copy of this sound wave and a comment. Here you see that the student has written the first maximum is at 231 milliseconds and the fourth is at 906, and so the period is 225, and so the frequency is 444. So you see that in a few minutes, students can extremely easily create a sound with his smartphone or her smartphone, measure the sound of his smartphone, include it in a document, and create a PDF that he can or she can share with the teacher in a matter of minutes. And they don't need all this laboratory apparatus which they usually need. In most of the schools in Europe, teachers have access to laboratories, but in a lot of countries, the teachers don't have access to laboratories, and so they can substitute all this laboratory equipment with a simple smartphone. There are many apps which give you the ability to do all this work. Not many give all the capabilities of physics, but you can try other apps which are equally interesting. For example, Firefox, which has been created by the University of Harran. Physics Toolbox is another app which gives you access to a number of measurements. Google Science Journal, which is an app developed by Google. It's been discontinued and it's been taken over by Arduino. So we'll see what they do out of this app. And then there is this app Physics, which we have created with in partnership with La Main à la Pâte. And so Physics has a number of capabilities, and I will, in the rest of my presentation, I will describe how to use Physics in order to create a course on using IBSE as a way of teaching. Some of the characteristics of Physics is that it's free with no sharing of personal data. We have spent a lot of time on the interface so that it's a highly engaging interface. And the students usually use the fact that there is a lot of colors, that they use, that they have a screen which is exactly the same as the one that they find in Instagram or Facebook, and with the same type of interaction. You can measure more than 30 types of different measures, from sound, color, magnetism, light, and so forth. So a lot of measurement capabilities. You have also the capability to record all your measurements and put them in a notebook to which you can add text, photo, tables, and then you can share this notebook under the form of a PDF or CSV file if you want to use Excel or use it as a database on Python. Or you can also share your measurements only. So if you work in a group, students can share only their measurements under what is called a Phys format. And then you also have experiment tools like a synthesizer, sound synthesizer, sound library. You can record two data at the same time with a dual recording, and many more capabilities. And finally, with Physics, you can also do protocol management. So you can create experimental protocols, share it with your students, or share it with the wider education community. At this stage, you probably have questions. So if you want to put your questions inside the comment box, then we can look at them, and Eleni can interrupt me if there are questions which I can answer immediately. Otherwise, I'll answer your question at the end of this presentation. Now I'd like to go through some of the capabilities which I've just described and show you some of the functionalities of Physics and the ergonomic also of the application. Again, I'm using here Physics as an example, but you might want to check some of the other apps and see if they fit your specific needs. We think that Physics is extremely well adapted, and we've done it again in partnership with La Main à la Pâte, which is well known for pushing inquiry-based science education in France and elsewhere. But again, there are other apps, so you can choose whatever you want. The Physics ergonomic is specially designed so that it's attractive to students and to pupils. And so when you open the Physics app, you immediately fall on this screen, and you see that this screen has, at the bottom, you've got this menu where you can switch between the four main screens of Physics. You can switch between the instrument screen, which we have here, where you record information and you select your instruments. The tool screen, where you have these additional tools like the synthesizers, or other tools like the frequencies and so forth. You have the notebook screen where you are going to find all the measures that you've recorded and add text and photos and organize your notebook. And then you have a protocol screen where you are going to find the protocols, the experimental protocols that you want to share with your students. Note that the app is the same for students and for teachers, so there is no difference, and everyone has the same capabilities. When you open the instrument screen, you can select various type of measurements. So here you see I've selected here the acceleration, horizontal acceleration. Here it's a measurement of an oscillogram, and you have here the sound amplitude measured in milliseconds. And here, this is another screen of the measurement of a frequency spectrum on sound. You see that, first of all, you see that immediately what pops up is the round circle at the middle where you have the measurement in big. So it's a big number. And the student immediately sees this measurement, and this measurement moves as the physical data is moving. You see that there is here an icon which shows what the student is measuring, and then there is obviously the units. And so in this round circle here, immediately the student sees something moving and is immediately attracted to make a measurement. Below is the graph of what is actually happening, and so the student will see that moving as well as the graph as he's moving his phone or as he's recording the sound. And then below you have two big buttons. The one on the right is help you to record the data over a period of time, so it's a recording button. And the one on the left gives you the ability to record, to make an instantaneous measurement of the measure. So it's a snapshot of a measurement. Now, when you record this data, they immediately, when you finish recording, they immediately go into the notebook screen. Now, you see that also that the type of, depending on the type of measure, the way the screen looks is very different. Here, you've got line graph, but here you've got a column graph, because for spectrum, it's much better to have a column graph. And then you see each instrument or each measure has a different color. What can you measure with physics? You can measure more than, you can record more than 30 measurements on acceleration. So you can measure the linear acceleration. You can measure the absolute acceleration, which includes gravity, so acceleration with G or without G. You can record the compass. You can record colors. In the colors, using your camera to record the color spectrum, to give names to color, to make measurement for absorbance. In the GPS tab, you can find the latitude, the longitude, the speed, the altitude, also the precision of the GPS. Gyroscope obviously is the rotation. You have a clock. You can record the inclination, and the luxmeter. You have the brightness, but you also have the luminance. In the magnetometer, you have obviously the magnetism in various directions. And then when you open a tab, like here I've opened the microphone tab, then you have access to other measures like the oscillogram, fundamental frequency, audio spectrum, sound and volume, and so forth. So here you see that there is things are classified by instruments. You've got the accelerometer, the compass, the colorimeter. But once you open the plus tab, then you enter into the measurements. And so inside this tab, there are many measurements that the students can do in the same way that here I've opened the microphone tab. So many measurements, and these measurements are described in the information button, which you have on the top right of the screen, where you can get information on the frequency of the measurement which is allowed on this data. So for example, on the sound volume, you see that it tells you that you can record at more than 250 Hertz. It tells you what is the maximum and minimum measurements, how this measure is done, and so forth. This information don't need internet. Actually, to operate physics, you don't need internet at all. You can just, and actually the first thing we recommend to do when your students are going to work on with physics is to switch off and to put it in airplane mode. So once you made a measurement, then these measures automatically arrive in the notebook. The notebook is another screen, and you can switch between the screens seamlessly by pressing at these various buttons at the bottom of the screen. And so you see that here, for example, I've recorded for a period of about 12 seconds the acceleration, the linear acceleration, and then I've made movements with my phone. Sorry, it's written in French, but everything is also in English. It's in about 7 languages. So some of my screens are in French, some of my screens are in English, some of my screens are in other languages. But it doesn't really matter. If you open it in English, you will find everything in English. And here, in this notebook screen, you have the measurement that you have done, and then you can zoom on the data using these two buttons. So you can redefine your the interval, the time interval on which you want to study the data. You can also zoom on the y-axis with the plus and minus, and then you can have an automated scale. And then here, this button allows you to switch between lines, bar charts, or points, depending on how you want to present this data. You can also add photos. Here I've added a photo of a guitar because I was making a measurement of the vibration of the guitar. Or you can add tables, and you can also add text. And so students put all the information they want in this notebook. They can add several measurements, and then they can reorganize the notebook. They can delete the cards that they don't like. They can duplicate cards as well if they want to focus on a specific time interval. And then when they have finished organizing their work in their notebook, then they can export this notebook under the form of a PDF or under the form of a CSV file. If they export it as PDF, then you see that it's produced a nice PDF, well organized with all the information, which afterwards they can share using all the communication tools that are present in their phone. They can share it by message, by mail, by WhatsApp, by Bluetooth, anything they are used to. And so they don't need. That's why they don't need to communicate to physic any information, because they use all the communication tools of their phone independent of physics. So no personal data is shared with physics. If they share it through a CSV file, then the various measurements will be organized properly in columns which are properly labeled with the unit, with the time, and so forth. So it's extremely well organized. Now they can share. Obviously, they work under the form of a PDF file, under the form of a CSV file, but they can also share their data. The pure measure, they can also share parts of their notebook. So here, for example, user 1 is sharing with user 2 some parts of it, of his or her notebook, and then he is sharing this information with by mail, by WhatsApp, or whatever he wants. And that's particularly handy when you want to do work in groups, so group work, where some members of a group will study one type of information or of analysis. Another part of the group will do another analysis, and then when they reconvene, they will share their analysis and create one common notebook, which then will be reorganized and shared with the teacher. So here you see that students can share their measurements or the photos or their text together and put them in a common notebook. And again, you don't need to log into a specific shared document or shared drive. Everything can be exchanged as files by mail, by WhatsApp, or by Messenger, or by AirDrop, whatever the students are used to. So you don't need to share personal data with physics. Now, on top of these two screens, which are the instrument screen where you record information and the notebook screen where you organize your information, we have added two more screens, which are, we believe, very important to make physics a complete environment for IBSE, for inquiry-based science education. The first one is the experimentation tools. So here it's another button which you can press, and you go into this experimentation tool. In this experimentation tool, you have many different options, and I want to go through some of them. One interesting one is the dual recording. The dual recording allows you to record not one information, but two information. So for example, here I've recorded the linear acceleration, horizontal linear acceleration, and the vertical linear acceleration. And then I record this information together. And if I describe a circle with my smartphone, then I will see that the XY graph, which I produce, and I can switch it to XY graph, will be a circle. So it allows you to do measurements of things which are correlated, so that students can analyze the correlation between two different phenomena. So for example, if they want to study how the noise of a guitar is connected to the vibration of the body of the guitar, they can record the sound volume, and they can record here the vibration, and they will see that these two things are highly correlated. But there are many other tools. So for example, the intervalometer allows you to take measurements at particular time intervals, every second or every 5 seconds. You can have the frequency synthesizer, which allows to generate frequency on two different voices, where you can adjust the volume of each voice. And you can also, you have a phase shift, so you can dephase these two voices. And that's interesting to show to students how pure sounds are, but how by adding another voice, you can make complex sounds, and then they can directly analyze these sounds which they generate with the tools. They can analyze it directly with the instruments and analyze directly with the oscilloscope or the frequency synthesizer. But you have also a sound library, which gives you access to a number of sounds which are curated and which will help your students to conduct their analysis. We have sounds of tuning fork, we have sounds of music instruments like a flute, a piano, but we also have white noise, a Doppler noise, we have a noise to try echolocation and so forth. So many different noise in this sound library, which students can use to conduct experiments. And then we have also things like the color synthesizer, the triggers, which allow you to start or end a chronometer or record if a specific value has been reached on a measure. You have also the calibration menu and so forth. So many different tools that students can use to push further the experimentation. And finally, we have added a last screen, which is the protocol screen. The protocols enable the teacher to share with the students very simple protocols that he would like them to try. We want them to, obviously, in full respect of the IBSE methodology, so it needs to be extremely open instructions. But this is, and that's why, because it's IBSE and the number of instructions that you want to give are very limited, that's why we have put a very simple protocols which you can share with your students. Now there are a number of protocols which are suggested inside the app, but you can add as many protocols as you want, or you can create your own protocols for your students, which you can share with them under the form of a document or on a file, or you can also share it as a barcode, and it's very easy to create a barcode. A protocol barcode with PHYSIC, and then you can share the barcode with the students, and the students will just scan the barcode with their PHYSIC app, and then add it directly to their application, and it will arrive directly in the protocol tab. Note that if you can also translate protocols, so if you've got a protocol that is in another language, it will automatically translate the protocol in your own language. So that's a way to really promote the exchange of protocols within the educational community, and we recommend that you share the protocols that you find are successful with your class with the rest of the educational community. Now, a tool on its own is not very useful, so we have together with Lama Lapat, we have created a number of resources to help you use use PHYSIC, but also find experimental protocols and information on the app. And so there are two websites which are the main website where you will find information. The first one is a website from Lama Lapat, and I've put at the bottom the link with the Lama Lapat Foundation website in English for physics. And in this website, you will find a number of protocols with the whole pedagogy environment. So there are scientific resources which you can use. There is a full description of the problems and the questions which your students will ask, how to answer these questions, and so on. So it's a real IBSC pedagogical tool proposing about 12 different protocols on sound, on light, and on movement. So you will find them by following the link which I've put at the bottom. And again, this is really a fantastic resource for teachers because you will find the whole set of questions and as well as a scientific background for the phenomena that you will study. You will also find another 35 to 40 protocols which are much more simple. And they are you will find them under the form of a QR code, so you can directly scan this QR code directly out of the website. And these are simple protocols on various physical or concepts, or on music, on sound, on movement, on light, and so forth. So you will find these protocols on the physics website. On the physics website, you will also find resources on how the physics app is working, what are its limits, how you can use it in class, and so forth. So you will find in the experiment tab at the top of the physics website another 35 protocols which you can use and modify using the app to your liking, so that you can it starts as a base for you to propose some experimental protocols to your students. Now we have used we have launched the app in September, and already it's been used by thousands of teachers in France, in Lebanon, in Indonesia, in Africa, and we got quite a good success with this product, which again is free, and there is nothing which you have to pay. You don't need to input any personal data, and so you can just use it as you want freely and distribute it, and there is no limit. It's really done free for the educational community by the foundation. So you can use it completely freely. And I wanted to give you some examples of how it's used in class and what is the kind of production that students are doing. So here it's with students age 16, 17 on a protocol which is Astronaut and Ringers. And this protocol is about rotation. So it's really to show the link between centripetal acceleration and the rotation speed. And so here you've got answers of students who have created the whole protocol on physics, writing in their notebook all these commands, and doing this graph by putting their smartphone inside a salad ringer. And sometimes when there are formulas, they prefer to take in picture their formulas from their notepad and add it to their notebook in physics. And then they produce this PDF, and then they share this PDF with WhatsApp with their teacher. So you see that, and then they did it at home. So very easy for them to experiment. And what teachers have found by using that is that they thought before that students were in full understanding of the relation between rotation and centripetal acceleration, and they found out that by practicing, students had in fact missed a number of elements of this relation, and that they suddenly discovered much more things by experimenting on their own about and trying to make their device in rotation, and suddenly finding what it really means to this centripetal acceleration. So teachers who have tried this protocol have found it extremely. Have been very surprised to discover that students, in fact, understood less before experimenting than they did after experimenting, and that what they thought was acquired by students were in fact not acquired. And so that's with the same protocol. That's here students putting their smartphone inside the salad ringer and measuring the distance from the center. And on the right here, you've got a student that prefer to use his own tool rather than using the tool from physics, using his own notepad, and it was easy for him to do so. And that's another work from students using that's younger students, age 13 and 14, working on linear movement, and so that was during the lockdown in May last year, and the students were trying how to make a rectilinear movement, and could they measure and could they check if this rectilinear movement was uniform, and they were using the GPS. Here you see the street just outside of their home. They were just authorized to go outside, so that was done during lockdown. And here the teacher didn't give any indication to the students. They took the app alone and they experimented on their own. So the students usually are completely get familiarized with the app completely alone. So there is no need from the teacher to really help them to take this app into their hand. It's extremely intuitive for them. And actually, most of the time, students discover things that the teachers have not even discovered, because it's so intuitive. It's a tool that is so intuitive for them, and the manipulation, the ergonomy of the tool is so intuitive for them. Now we have also devised some recommendations for teachers when using this tool. So you will find in the website of La Malapat a number of experiments and the protocols that you can try with your classes depending on their levels. So we have protocols for various levels and various age, but these are common recommendation that we have for those teachers that want to try using their smartphone to conduct inquiry-based science education. And our first advice is to be confident. This app has been tried by thousands of students, and it doesn't break down. It is extremely resilient. It gives accurate numbers, and also be confident that students are going to very easily take it in their hands. So they are going to be extremely at ease with this type of with the ergonomy of the app. So be confident. Don't be worried. It will not break down, and students are going to use it extremely easily. The second one is obviously to put the smartphones in airplane mode, because otherwise students are going to be disturbed by messages arriving on their app, on their phone, and so forth. So you don't want them to be disturbed. And again, the app doesn't need an internet connection to work. So you can, first thing is you ask your students to put it on airplane mode. Our third recommendation is to encourage group work. We think that it works better when students gather in a group, and ideally three students together, so that they can share their discoveries. They can each use their phone, but it's better if they work with the same phone in a group. Sometimes they will want to try on their own, but then afterwards they can share their measures. So encourage group work and really push them to work as groups. Our fourth recommendation is to let the students familiarize themselves with the tool before starting the lesson. So let them 10 minutes to use the tools. Ideally, they would have downloaded the app before on their smartphone, and then let them 10 minutes to familiarize themselves with the tool and try a bit everything. Obviously, they are going to make noise. They are going to try the synthesizer. They are going to try to record, but that's part of the inquiry-based process to have them familiarize themselves with the tool. Our fifth recommendation is to choose an adapted experiment protocol. One thing that we like is sound. Honestly, it's so easy to create to familiarize students with analyzing sound with this tool. With this tool, they can generate sound and they can analyze it. Using the oscillogram or the oscilloscope within the tool, they can really see how what is the waves and what is the amplitude movements, amplitude of the sound. They start to ask themselves questions about what is the sound, what is the frequency, what is the period, and the sound is particularly handy and is a fantastic. It's also you cannot analyze sound without this type of instrument. So we recommend sound experiments, but you can also try movement, and again experimenting with rotation is also a great thing. Light is also very interesting, and for classes which are younger, color, for example. So in physics you can analyze colors. We have physics can recognize more than 200 colors. So for young students, analyzing colors in a market, for example, the fruit colors or the colors from their notebook and so forth, they start to ask themselves questions about what is a color. Then they see that it's a combination of that it's associated to a frequency, and that it can be reproduced with a combination of colors, and then they can start to use the color synthesizer, which is also present in the app, where they can synthesize colors, and then they can ask themselves many questions. So colors is also something which is interesting. And finally, our last recommendation is to request a final report. With physics, it is extremely easy to create a PDF document from all the measures that your students will have done. So ask them to organize these measures, to add the comments, to add pictures. So you can add photos. They will love adding photos to their document, and then to organize, move around the various cards so that their report makes sense, and then create a PDF final report, and then send this final report to you under the form of a PDF. So requesting a final report is also very interesting. So this is the end of this first part of this presentation. I'm going to switch off the presentation now, and now if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Christophe, thank you so much for your presentation. It has been incredibly informative, and we can see the positive reactions from our participants. You have received so many positive comments about how amazing this tool is, how user-friendly the application looks like, and indeed we have some questions. Question number 1. Does the technological use of everything negatively affect the development of motor skills?
I think what is interesting in using smartphones for IBSE is that it really connects the student with the real world. So they use a digital tool to really make sense of the real world. And so what I'm very cautious with is these digital tools where it's extremely useful as well, but I think it should not be overused. The fact of having pure digital tools where students operate in a virtual environment and where they connect things purely virtually. I think there is a risk that students see it only as a quiz or as a way to answer to the right questions and make many attempts until they get the right questions. So I think what is interesting in using smartphone for IBSE is really to have students see that the digital tool can be used as a real scientific instrument to make sense of reality, not a digital tool to make sense of a virtual reality, which supposedly represents the real world. So connecting digital and the real world is, I think, the great advantage of this type of tool. And that's true for physics, but it's also true for the other tools which I've talked to you about, like Firefox or Google Science Journal or other tools. So making sense of the real world by making real measure with a digital tool, I think is a real way to connect students that are so used to the digital tools that they use every day in their daily life, to connect it to the real world and show them that these digital tools can be used to make sense of the real world. I think that's a real pedagogical asset of this type of tool.
Thank you very much, Christophe. Another participant is asking if you have any example of how this application can be used in chemistry class. In chemistry class.
In chemistry, we have, I don't have examples on this presentation, but we have used it for absorbance. So making sense of the Beer-Lambert law that is working. So that's a type of thing, or to see the change of color also for when there are some precipitation of compounds, so that they can take picture, or they can analyze also the color of these compounds. So everything around color, everything around transmittance of light. Well, they use also simple things like the chronometer, but taking pictures. Also, they can use the table. So you can in physics you can you can add text, pictures, comments on your notebook, but you can also add a table. So we also have students that use physics with a table where they record concentration and speed to achieve a certain form of precipitation or transparency and so on. So they can, you can also very easily, when you make with physics, when you make several times the same measure, so if you take a snapshot of a measure several times, then it automatically organizes the data in your notebook as a table. So you don't need, you see, to rewrite this data. If you take several measures of the same measurement, it will organize it as a table, and then you can add labels to your table and comments. And then with this table, you can create a graph, and then you can then export this graph in the form of PDF and so on. So it's extremely easy to make recurrent measurements and then to organize them in the graph.
Thank you very much, Christophe. And I think you replied to our next question, which was about PDF creation. So our participants understand correctly that they can export the PDF from the application.
Yes. So what you do is once you have organized your notebook, put everything you want, reorganize the cards in the right order, deleted what you don't want, duplicated what you wanted, then you can export it as a PDF file. So you just press on the top right, there is an export button. You can export it into PDF, and then it's the PDF is created, and then you do what you want with this PDF. So then you can share this PDF as a mail. You can share it with WhatsApp if your students use WhatsApp. You can share it using Messenger. You can save it to Google Drive. You can do whatever you want, and so you don't go through physics to do that. So what physics produces is a file, and then you can do whatever you want with this file using your smartphone without having to give personal information. So if you send it by mail, physics will not know which mail you've been using or will not know your mail.
Thank you very much. A participant is asking if this application can be used on computers.
No, we don't have it on the computer. We are going to do a version for computer, but you can use it on tablets. So you can use it on smartphone or tablets. Everything which runs on Android or iOS. Now, I know that on Apple, the apps are also these apps are compatible with the computer, so you could use them with the computer. Honestly, we've not spent much time on it so far because we really wanted to have a portable tool which students can use on the field, at home, and we see that students are really using it. They are used to write long messages on their smartphone. I am not, I tend to dictate or I tend to write very short messages because I'm bothered of typing like that. But students, they are used to write very long things. And you've seen from the example which I've shown you, they write full memos on their smartphone without any problem. So we tend to see that students use everything. What they like is really using one platform and not having to switch platforms. So using their smartphone, they feel also very, they really have a personal relation with their smartphone, not so much with the computer. So.
Thank you very much. We have received an amazing comment followed by a question. The comment reads, "This is an amazing tool. It's a full complete laboratory and it has lessons, worksheets and data recording tools. And facilitates team working. What else would one ask? It's genial and great." And the question, and our participant is wondering, should the use of these applications be supported in education?
Should what? Sorry?
Should the use of these applications be supported in education?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Sorry, excuse me.
So we have two reactions. One teacher is very enthusiastic about the application, and another teacher is wondering if we should encourage the use of applications in education, in class.
That's a good question. That's that's really I'm waiting the answer from you, actually, from this community. So that's why we've done this webinar. Is really we think it's a useful tool for the reasons I've described, and we think it has value to try to show to students that their phone is not just a tool for gaming. It's not just a tool for exchanging messages and connecting to their community through Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. But it's also a scientific instrument that can be used for them to help make sense of the world. Now, one thing which is very important, and I hope you've seen that, is that our goal is not to talk to the students directly. So we don't recommend or we don't promote the use of physics alone by the students. And if you look at our website, you will see that this website is for teachers. So we talk to the teaching community. We don't talk to students. We have designed a tool for students. So it's students love this tool. I can tell you when you give them the right in class to use this tool, they are all over the moon because suddenly they can do something which is out of the ordinary. But the way we want to, the person we want to talk to is to the teachers. We don't want to short circuit the teachers because they are essential to the learning process. And so we talk to the teachers, we give them the tools that they can use then with their class. So and that's how we distribute physics. That's how our communication is. That's how we organize the protocols. We made the tools for the students, but the people we talk to, the people we think are here to transmit these tools to their students are the teachers. And so you are essential in the adoption process, and you are essential in the process of also helping to determine when and how this tool should be used. We think it's extremely useful. We have designed it so that the students love it, so that they find that it's extremely interesting. But without the educational community, we think it will not succeed.
Thank you very much. Another participant is mentioning many articles in physics education research write about issues with mobile calibration and the use of apps as scientific tools. Did you encounter any problems using the physics tool?
Well, that's a very interesting also, and thanks a lot for all your comments. But that's a very interesting remark, and we don't and we are very cautious about that, and that's why we have a calibration tool. So if you go to the tools, we have a calibration for every single instrument and every single measure, apart from color, and that we're working on it. And actually, it will open new very interesting avenues for us, and I'll tell you why. But you can calibrate all the tools, so you can. And one tool that is particularly important to calibrate is sound, because every single smartphone has a different sensitivity. Their microphones have specific sensitivities. So, but there are some measurements where there is no error. So, for example, if you measure the frequency, then there will not be any error in analyzing the signal. So, and I think this is part of the educational process. Is also to show students that a scientific tool is something that needs to be calibrated. So, for example, if you go to if you analyze luminance or colors, you will see that on the top left there is a need to calibrate in order to fix the parameters of acquisition by the smartphone. So we are particularly attentive to that. We don't pretend that the tool gives an absolute reference, because we know that this is not true. And we think this is part of the educational process also to show students that on some measurements, like sound, everything is relative, and they need to calibrate their instruments before. The same way they would calibrate a spectrometer, you need to calibrate also the sound in order to be able to compare sound measurements. Now on color, we don't have a calibration so far, but we are going to add one. And that's very interesting because by adding the calibration menu to colors, we will be also able to show how deficiencies in color, in visual color by humans, is the same as calibrating a color in a smartphone. So you see that by the calibration process, also helps the student understand how ourselves, human, we are calibrated and how we perceive things differently, and how having the calibration helps people to see the same thing or to understand how other people perceive some phenomenon. So I think it's what your comment is very true. It is very interesting, but I think we can turn it in an advantage rather than seeing it as a disadvantage. Every scientific tool needs to be calibrated. Sometimes it's calibrated in the factory. Sometimes you do the calibration. Here it's the same.
Thank you very much, Christophe. We have two final questions. Has PhysIC already been used for citizen science projects?
For?
Citizen science projects.
What do you mean by citizen science project?
It's a separate discipline in STEM that includes the participation of citizens in scientific research.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. No, we have really. That's. I mean, again, we've tried to have the teachers as a medium for the application. So we are very. Our initial objective was really to use it in class, especially very useful in this period of confinement and lockdown, which we have experienced. For example, the app is used a lot in Lebanon, where they had a very strict lockdown, and so the teachers have used it to help their students to continue to experiment. And so we have not used it so far in a much wider sense with citizens to conduct citizens experimental projects. Again, we are really our first use has been to as a tool to help teachers conduct IBSE classes. And there was that was the only question.
Yes, our final question is, which age groups is PhysIC suitable for?
Alors, it's well adapted to age group from 12 to 18. So these last 6 years of secondary education, and for these classes, for the younger classes, color and sound, it's in the French program and in UK as well. So color and sound is very easy to manipulate and to use it, and also movement, like rectilinear movements. Students can use the GPS, for example, to show that they can go in straight lines, or they can use also the rotation angle. For classes which are older, then obviously frequency analysis, periods, and then chemistry, and then going into some science projects, the older classes, 16, 17. Then obviously it's used as a scientific tools to analyze sounds, to analyze movement, and for projects like measuring the speed of sound, for example, you can do that using the triggers. Very interesting. So they can start to program. We also and I forgot to mention that. I'm really sorry about that. You can connect PhysIC to Arduino, to microbit, or to this kind of cards, ESP32 as well. So you can connect these cards. You can send a message under the form of a text message. If you put the denomination of the measure, for example, concentration or voltage, and then a semicolon, and then the value, and then you connect the smartphone to PhysIC. It can recognize and it can display these measurements and so forth. So teachers use it as well in connection with Arduino. We've got also some teachers who have used it in mathematics to show to their students the normal law. So they used a sensor with a fixed bearing, and then obviously the sensor shows many decimals, and they use these decimals to transmit them into a spreadsheet, and then to analyze it and show that the sensor is producing information which has a standard deviation and a mean. And so they showed the students that it follows a normal law. We've got teachers using it in music, in painting, in painting classes, in sports as well. So honestly, the number of use is amazing. When a teacher sent me this protocol on the normal law and the sensors, honestly, I was a bit flabbergasted because I hadn't imagined that this would be used for mathematics, but it is used for mathematics as well. So many different applications for that. Alors maybe I know that it's going to end, Eleni, but maybe before we end, we have done on we have put on. I'll share it just to my screen to show you the link. But we have. I hope you see the page. We have on this page, if you go to www.physics.org/test, we have a number of sounds or color on which you can try the various to try different measures with physics. So there are sounds with a certain frequency. You can measure the sound of a white noise. You can look at the frequency spectrum. So it's kind of a bench test. Workbench for you to test various noise and so forth with physics. With physics, you don't need to. If you're using an Android, you can at the same time play the sound from the frequency sensitizer and record it. So you can do the two operations at the same time. So you can measure what you're producing with Android with only one smartphone. Unfortunately, if you have an iOS, you need two phones, one that is generating the sound and one that is analyzing the sound, because Apple doesn't allow you to generate a sound and record it at the same time. But if you have Android, you can do the two things at the same time, so you don't need two mobiles to analyze sound that you generate with your frequency spectra, with your frequency sensitizer, or with the sound library. Voilà. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and please send me your comments. You have on the website, or you can send it to info@physics.org, or you can ask Eleni to give you my address, and she will give it to you, and I'm fine as well. So send me your comments. Send me your protocols, share it. We're very happy to have the news from you, how you use it, and if you like it.
Thank you so much for this presentation, Christophe. We have shared the link to the test and also your email in the chat. Thank you so much for addressing all the questions, and many thanks to all our participants for attending. As a reminder, we have a second webinar by Trapeza Digital, Lamana Lapat and Physics next week, Wednesday the 28th at 5 p.m. Central European Time. So participants have the opportunity to try the application and then come back with comments and more suggestions.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.